New Horizons takes a color photo of Pluto.
Hubble turns 25.
Aerojet Rocketdyne working on some ion drives.
And I've got an interview with Hannah Kerner from SEDS.
Stay tuned. Tomorrow begins right now.
And welcome to Tomorrow. I am Carrie Ann Higginbotham. This is episode 813 for Saturday, April 25th, 2015. And first of all, of course, I want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon Premier members. These are the people who have donated $10 or more to this show. And I still struggle with what to say, but thank you. Very sincerely, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys just make this show possible. Along with everyone else, but it's so crazy. It's so awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So with me, or joining me any moment here, is going to be Hannah Kerner from the SEDS organization, which is the It's the Students for Exploration and Development of Space organization. Welcome to the show, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So you're the national chair of SEDS, which is again, I want to make sure I get this correct at least once, the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
That's so awesome. So can you give us a little bit of background? What does SEDS do? Yeah, what does SEDS do exactly?
Okay, so SEDS is essentially, we are like a federation of chapters in different universities across the U.S. I think we counted about 38 the other day. And so, it's kind of like two-tiered. So at the local level, different chapters have their different focuses. And so like they do various projects, it's like a school club, right? So like they do various projects like depending on their focus. So at UNC, where I went to school, we're not an engineering school. So even though some of us were like technical people, like I did computer science, but we also had like, nursing majors, Chinese majors, English people. So we did a lot of educational outreach and we did some technical projects, but then a lot of the chapters do things like rocketry, or they'll, make their own satellites. And so kind of every chapter has its own flavor. And so they do local activities on their own. And then we, as a national organization, have various national competitions. We try to basically inspire young people to participate in the space industry. And I think the biggest thing that we as a national group do is connect students to the space industry. Because our conference, Space Vision, it's the national conference. It's going to be in Boston this year. So it's hosted by a different chapter every year. And so it's kind of like the first space conference that any of these students go to, right? So it's kind of their jumping off point.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of what SEDS is at its most basic level. Is it's how people, young people, get involved in the space industry, how they come to know people who then get them involved in other things. That's where I met Will, who y'all spoke with a few months ago.
Yeah.
Or probably a month ago-ish. Yeah, so.
Yeah, Will Pomerantz speaks volumes of SEDS for sure, all the time, which is really great. And kind of exactly as you're saying, a lot of people get involved in SEDS, we've noticed, have gone on to other things like International Space University, and then, of course, working a lot of times in the space industry, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, no, that seems like a really great program, at least on the ground floor, for people, young people, as you're saying, to get interested. People who are young but not at the 10-year-old sort of level.
Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing probably is the network, so I don't know. I've never seen another organization where you end up having so many close friends in so many different places. I have probably my closest circle of friends is just scattered across the US because they're in all these different SEDS chapters, and, I've got some of my best friends are at Arizona in their chapter, and Colorado at theirs, so it's really cool that like we're able to maintain this close network of people within the student groups as well as our alumni and stuff.
Totally. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And so SEDS is not just US based though, right? SEDS is global, is it not? Yes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I am the chair of SEDS USA. So that we have this sort of loose association called SEDS Earth, which nobody really governs, but we all talk frequently and maintain like relationships between the organizations. And so we also have a UK SEDS, so they have probably about the same number of branches. We call ours chapters, they call theirs branches, at universities all over the UK. We have SEDS India, which has I think like over 100 chapters at different universities, huge. And we have, we recently got SEDS Nigeria, SEDS Korea is starting up, SEDS Canada recently became like an official organization. Nice. It SEDS Cyprus, which is kind of, so like we don't sort of like impose a standardized structure or any sort of like it's very like independent, so anybody can be involved. In the US we're a 501c3, in the UK they're their version of that, etc. So
that's very cool. Well, we've got some questions that are coming in from the chat room if you are okay with that.
Yeah,
awesome. Chris Ratcliffe asks, how can someone start a new chapter at their school?
So it is super easy, which I'm very happy about. It used to be kind of a pain in the butt of doing like a big packet of work. But now if you just go to seds.org and if you go to chapters, then you will see this whole thing where it's just like, all you have to do is sign up, pay your dues. The dues are, I think, like $40. So it's pretty small for like a whole chapter.
Yeah.
And then you're in, and then so like as soon as you sign up on the website, our chair of our council of chapters, his name is Charlie, he will contact you and get you inducted into the council of chapters, and then you'll be receiving all the emails and you'll get invited to all the group meetings. So the council of chapters meets once a month and they kind of talk about like, this is what my chapter is doing, do y'all have any ideas for where I can get A and B resource, things like that.
Interesting. That's very cool. Another good question, and this could take a really long time to answer, so feel free to take as short or as long a time as you want for this one. To Wicked asks, what's the coolest program or experiment or competition currently going on with SEDS that you know of?
The coolest? Ooh.
Right? I couldn't ignore that one.
Okay, so let me answer two ways.
Sure.
So there's, like I said, we're kind of two-tiered, right? But still like very involved with each other. So I'm going to start with the coolest chapter project.
Sure.
So our chapter at University of California at San Diego, they're sort of this like technical superstar chapter, that's like very engineering heavy, but so a couple of years ago, they produced what I think was the world's first 3D printed rocket engine.
Yes.
And they designed that completely on their own, which is amazing. And they've done super well with that. They've continued it. They've gotten several patents out of it. They've formed like a company out of it. They've got like a startup going, and they're like, they've entered various business plan competitions and won, I think, all of them.
Awesome.
And so now the other day they announced a Kickstarter for their newest rocket engine, also a 3D printed rocket engine. But of course they've iterated so much over the past like year and a half probably that they've been around. And so they launched this Kickstarter on the 21st. And by the 23rd of April, like 2 days later, they had like, I think almost $12,000 raised out of their $15,000 goal.
Wow.
Which was insane for, a Kickstarter. It was such good traction. It was like a staff pick and everything. So it's really exciting. Like it's a great example of like, you know, you're a student, but it doesn't mean like school is all you do. You know what I mean? Like classwork is important, but you know, you just kind of get that done. And there's so many things you can do while you're in school and have the resources, like people to protect you if you break things, you know, when you're in school is like the best time to do stuff like that. And to start like, kind of what we say with SEDS too, is like, you know, we get to give people leadership roles and have them managing like serious projects and working on real technical teams before they go into, you know, real jobs, so they can make the mistakes on, you know, our time, like student time. So, you know, but I just thought that Kickstarter was so cool. You know, they're just like, they're really, really proving that like students do amazing things and can like really change the world and change the industry, you know, because that's huge. 3D printed rocket engines.
Totally.
I think it's for CubeSat launchers in particular, which helps other students. So I think I'm just going to totally not directly answer this question and give two answers again for my other comment. So two things that I think are really cool on the national level programs we have, and I'll probably end up saying all of them because I like all of them because I kept them around. But, you know, so I think what really sets us apart from like other sort of space like program engineering or, you know, whatever, is we have this business plan competition, a student business plan competition. So it's a new space competition too. So you know, anybody who's a member can, you know, put together this whole business plan. They get feedback from like a team of judges, and we have a team of mentors that will kind of look it over with you before and work on different iterations of the business plan process with you. And then once you get to the conference, so the business plan competition is held at our Space Vision conference, and then there is the actual competition. So you present your pitch to a panel of judges who, you know, just happen to be actual investors, etc., you know, and so and like real leaders in the space industry. And you know, you kind of get this face time and this opportunity to show your ideas to people who like you wouldn't necessarily be able to access and have the floor with in, you know, real like startup culture, you know, because there's a lot of opportunities, but it's also hard to get your foot in the door, you know. And so we have this opportunity for students to just get in there. And I guess that leads me to my other favorite one, which I didn't think of before as a project, but it is a project. But Space Vision, the conference, again, is so great. It's, you know, it's the only conference I've seen where, well, so it's all students, right? And so all of the speakers there are there to talk to students, you know, and that's the only conference like that, right? It's only about leadership development, about finding out about opportunities, and you know, it's just like everybody is focused on like your future there. And when I went to my first Space Vision, I just remember thinking like, you know, this is what I've been looking for. You know, I come from like a wonderful family, but I'm also like a first generation college student, and so I never had you know, people who were super excited about space like I was. You know, everybody just thinks it's kind of weird. And then, you know, I got in this room of like 350 people, which are students of all different ages, and a whole bunch of speakers who are there, and they're like, hey, we love space too, like welcome to our family. You know, it's just like that really set me off. You know, that's where I really felt like my whole career took off. Everything started falling into place. I was super, super happy about everything that was going on. You know, it really opens up your world. And I love going to the conference every year now and seeing other people have that same experience. You know, you like see the light in their eyes, and you're just like, you know, like we did it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I guess I can stop there with that question before I list all of the projects.
No, that's great. That's great. It was one of those, I read it and I thought, oh, this could be a long time. But no, that was perfect. And then another question comes in saying, are there high school chapters or are there just colleges?
Right now, we only have college chapters, but we are open to high school chapters. And this is something that we are kind of at a national level trying to always like encourage to our university chapters is like, hey, find, you know, a high school in your area and kind of make them like your sister chapter, you know, and sort of like adopt that. You know, I would love to see high school chapters and I would love to see our university chapters interacting with them because they have so much to share, you know?
Yeah.
And so if you are in a high school, you can apply or you can join as a chapter through that same website that I said before. You can just go to SEDS.org. It might be /join or it might be /chapter/join. Just, you know, if you go to the chapters page and click join, it should be there. And if there's like, you know, any line item that says like that you're not able to fill, just put something and we'll know what you're talking about, you know, we'll contact you.
Got it.
Yeah. And look on the chapter page to see, you know, is there one near your school? And that university can just help you with anything you need. And we'll help too, you know, at the national level.
Awesome. So there was a little bit of a long question in the chat room from Destructor 1701, and hopefully Destructor 1701 doesn't mind me sort of simplifying a little bit. You had mentioned earlier how every SEDS chapter is a little bit different. Are there some that have some more focus on some areas, or do they sort of all try to be a little bit more general to be accepting of everyone interested in space, or is it maybe because of the different schools that some have a more of a you know, engineering kind of focus or a rocketry hardware kind of focus, or do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, you know, the chapter is formed by, you know, it's sort of guided by the people who are in it, right? So none of them have like a stated sort of purpose, right? It's all just like, we love space, we want people who love space. And so, you know, it just it's kind of determined by the people in it. So, you know, at University of Buffalo, for example, they, like most of the leadership in their SEDS chapter is also involved on like satellite research. So just in school. So theirs tends to be more satellite focused.
Gotcha.
But, you know, if they have like art people coming in, they would create art projects or find a way to join them, you know,
right.
Art on the satellites. Right. And so at ASU, for example, Arizona State University, they have a pretty diverse mix, I think, of majors. So like they have, you know, they'll have teams that are like technical product teams, like they did a microgravity flight, for example. They did like a dust coagulation experiment. And, you know, they have biz dev people on that team. But, you know, the biz dev people still got to fly on the 0G flight.
Love it.
So like, yeah. So, you know, you find ways to fit everybody in and let everybody participate, you know, because everybody has something. Like space is kind of unfortunately thought of as a science and engineering field, but, you know, there's so much room for everybody, you know, and we really need everybody, right? And so that's what we try to push in SEDS is like, hey, this isn't about just engineers. And even at the conference, we try to provide a lot of, you know, diverse programming. Like we'll have talks about art, talks about medicine, talks about satellites, you know, business, economics, etc.
Agreed. Oh, love it. All right, so one final question, and again, this might take a little time to answer, comes again from 1701, Destructor 1701. Personal question, where did your space interest start?
Yeah, so people ask me this question a lot, and you always want to be like, oh, well, you know, I one time saw the shuttle take off,
right.
And you know, everybody, you think there's going to be some like pinnacle moment, you know, but I think mine is a little more strange in that when I was younger, I really thought I was an alien because, you know, I was like, when I was a little kid, it was really hard for me to understand that, every single person had this whole universe in their brain like I did.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, there's no way that every single person I see has this whole scope of thoughts. You know what I mean? So for a while when I was younger, I was like, I must be an alien. That's the explanation.
I love it.
But I think this started me into thinking of like, I guess I was like always really intrigued by things at an incomprehensible scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started reading about, I think that led me to read a lot about astronomy when I was younger. And I was just like so obsessed by the idea of an expanding universe, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And so, it just has always kind of felt like this thing that like I was, you know what I mean? Like I was kind of always attached to that and just like felt that in me. And I don't know. I can't remember ever like, I feel like I was kind of like born into it. I don't know.
No, that's great. No, for sure. It's so hard when you have that kind of personal connection to something to try and explain that to somebody who doesn't for whatever reason. And I mean, that's kind of the great thing is that we are all so different.
Yeah.
It takes each of us to make the world go round. But no, that's great. I love it. That's awesome. I have a friend who thought that he was going to grow up to be a dragon. So, thinking you're an alien is totally fine. My personal best friend when I was younger was Mickey Mouse. So, it's right? Oh, kids are great that way. Okay, so perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been really, I think, really great and really inspiring. I kind of wish that I could go back to college and join SEDS because I sort of missed that my first time around. But for more information, of course, people can hit up SEDS.org. It's SEDS.org, of course. Build your own chapter, get involved with some kids in high school. That's really awesome. I love it. Thank you, Hannah, so much for joining us, and thank you for giving us a little bit more insight into what SEDS does exactly.
Yes, and please, anybody, feel free to email me directly. If you have questions, my email is on the website.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, and that's about it. And when we come back, we will be doing some space news. Catch you later.
Thank you.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving, her heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
And welcome back to Tomorrow. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham, joining, of course, Carrie Ann. Before we get into space news, I did want to give a huge shout out to all of the patrons of Tomorrow who've helped to make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are the people who've contributed at least $5 or more to this specific episode. For more information on how you can contribute and help crowdfund the show, visit patreon.com/TMRO. All right, let's go ahead and get started with some space news. And actually, before we get into that, we do have an event coming up called CosmoQuest. This is actually Grumpy Space reached out to us, Grumpy_Space reached out to us and told us about a 36-hour fundraising hangout-a-thon. That's what we're calling it, right?
Yeah,
a hangout-a-thon?
That's what they're calling it. They're calling it a hangout-a-thon.
Hangout-a-thon.
It's like a whole bunch, instead of being a party, I mean, it is a fundraiser, so there's that going on.
It's a fun-raiser.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess they are trying to get fun dinero. I don't know. I'm trying to make it work for you. I'm so sorry. This is going on with CosmoQuest. It's a 36-hour hangout-a-thon. It started April 25th, 8 a.m. and goes through 8 p.m. of April 26th. That's in Pacific time. If you want that in UTC, I did do the conversion, but hold on, I have to read it. It is April 25th at 1500 through April 27th at 0300 UTC.
There you go. And they're going to have really great really great guests on.
Yes.
Really great guests on.
People who are not us.
Yeah. Head over to cosmoquest.org. Help them out. You know, they're trying to stay funded. They're trying to get some stuff. I think it sounded like they had like some NASA funding before that may have dried up because other NASA programs are kind of sucking some of those funds away.
Right.
So
It is it's Global Astronomy Month, so awesome. And I think they're doing some mapping of Mercury, Moon, Mars, and Vesta, I believe it is, which is also fun.
Speaking of mapping, let's talk about our first news item, which is New Horizons is getting nearer to Pluto and has snapped this color photo. Okay, well, I promise. Everyone's expecting like this epic, awesome color photo. There is color in the photo, and that's I've lost.
Yeah, no, it's the first color image of Pluto and Moon. Is it Charon? How do you pronounce that?
Sure, let's go with that. It was taken that photo was taken April 9th. This was at a distance of 115 kilometers away, or 71 million miles from Pluto.
115 million kilometers.
What did I say?
You said 115 kilometers. And
That
then
would
you
be
said 71
that would
million.
be a terrible picture if it were 150. That would
Pluto's
be.
a lot smaller than we
It's
thought,
like
you guys.
tiny. It is a Plutoid, people. It is. In fact, it says in the banner, it's a Plutoid, people.
That's awesome.
So New Horizons will actually reach Pluto July 14th. So it's moving
Very cool.
very, very fast. This is the first real mission to Pluto, so that we can actually see what's going on there. I mean, we've done Mars, we've done Mercury and Venus. Pluto's the last, the first Plutoid that we visited. There we go.
I like it.
Pluto is the first Plutoid that we've visited, and New Horizons, a modern observatory going down there to scientific platform going down there to check it out. So first color photo, we're going to get a lot more of that, where that came from.
That'll be very cool. I'm very excited about that. So that's in the future. Speaking about the past.
Oh, there's your transition.
Right? I had to grab onto something. Hubble. It was the 25th anniversary of Hubble's launch. I believe we have some footage.
T-minus 10, go for main engine start. We are go for main engine start, T-minus 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery with the Hubble Space Telescope, our window on the universe.
We're in awe
Mission Control,
because
Houston.
A, the space shuttle is awesome and it was always fun to watch. But
Love
B,
that roll.
for the first time like ever, it's like raining here in California. It's weird. So we look up and there's like water droplets on the window, but only on one side of the building.
Yes.
So anyhow, yes, Hubble 25. This is the launch
Beautiful,
footage.
beautiful launch. That was April 24th of 2015. Or, I mean, that wasn't 2015. That
would be.
I'm so sorry. That was STS-31 in 1990. This is the first time that, and this is Discovery, I want to make sure I mention that. This is the first time that shuttle went up to 382 statute mile orbit, which is the highest that an orbiter had traveled at that point in time. There was, of course, a lot of things that happened with Hubble. One of the very first sort of issues was that the observatory's solar arrays stopped as it was trying to unfurl. They eventually got that going on, which was great. And then, of course, the main mirror we found out was grounding correctly, which led to another shuttle mission. That was STS-61. That was Endeavour. That had 5 EVAs. It was an 11-day mission. That was in 1993. Then Discovery went back in STS-82 in 1997 to upgrade the telescope's scientific instruments and increase its research capabilities. Discovery went back again at STS-103 for the 3rd servicing mission in 1999, replacing all of 6 Hubble's gyroscopes, 3 of which had failed, along with replacing the fine guidance sensor and the telescope's computer. Then, in STS-109, which was Columbia, thank you very much, in 2002, there was another 5 EVAs installing the advanced cameras for surveys, new rigid solar arrays, and new power control unit. Very cool. And then finally, STS-125 in 2009. That was Space Shuttle. What? What was it? What space shuttle was that? Oh, that's right. That was Atlantis, giving the final servicing mission to Hubble. Thank you very much.
That's the only space shuttle, isn't it?
Yes, a 14-day mission, another 5 EVAs. The Cosmic
That was the one with
Origins.
Mike Massimino in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the one where he was just like, I can't do it. and he just brute forced it. Go Massimino. The Cosmic Origin Spectrograph and the Wide Field Camera 3. And Hubble has sat like that in beautiful condition to this very day. Thank you, Atlantis.
Maybe we'll get 5 more years out of it. That'd be cool to have a Hubble 30th anniversary. I would say that the James Webb Space Telescope is the replacement for Hubble, although that's not quite true. They're different. They're different.
They are
but
different.
We're going to call it the replacement for Hubble, so hopefully that will launch. End of statement. Hopefully
Yeah,
that will
hopefully
launch.
that'll
All right, moving right along, NASA has selected Aerojet Rocketdyne for next generation engines, space engines, ion engines. They're going to be developing really powerful ion engines. These are Hall-designed engines, 100 kilowatt Hall thruster systems. Now, the reason that's important is because traditionally, electrical-based engines or engines that require electricity in space, they're much, much smaller, like 5 kilowatts or less. So a 100 kilowatt system is a big deal. Now, there are plans to put up larger systems between 20 and 40 kilowatts for NASA's asteroid redirect mission. But even that's still much, much less than this 100 kilowatt system that Aerojet Rocketdyne is going to be developing. So the Hall effect thruster, it's an ion engine, propellant accelerated by a magnetic field. You're actually looking at video of one of those working right there. We've had them in use for a while, since December of 1971. So this isn't science fiction. This is real technology that has flown in space for quite a long time. Usually you use it on satellites, and usually you'll have an ion thruster in addition to something like a chemical thruster. But a really high-powered ion thruster, a really high-powered Hall effect thruster would be able to push you to someplace like Mars much, much faster. It's like stepping on the gas pedal and just never letting go. So you could get to someplace like Mars way faster than you could using, say, chemical rockets, and it's much lighter, and it's just a better design
And
for
it looks
in-space propulsion. This is not ground to space. This is in-space propulsion. Good competition to Vasimir as well, right? So Vasimir's kind of trying to do the same thing. All of these engines require tons and tons of power, so it'll be cool to see what they're able to pull off.
And it looks like the game Portal.
And it looks like the game Portal. All right, moving right along.
NASA doing a little bit more selecting.
I love the acronyms in the banner. I purposely put acronyms in the banner.
It's so terrible. NASA selects Planetary Resources for 2 SBIR Phase 2 contracts. What does that even mean? So the asteroid mining company Planetary Resources has been selected for 2 Small Business Innovation Research Phase 2 awards. That means.
Spear.
Man, for the development of advanced CubeSat technologies.
Like that one right there.
How cute.
CubeSat right there, yep.
So one of the 2 awards is going towards the development of hybrid green monopropellant / cold gas propulsion system called the Integrated Propulsion and Primary Structure Module.
So a different kind of CubeSat propulsion. I think we have a picture of that one too. There you go.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
no. Yeah, okay.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is going to provide a standard interface for the 6U and the 12U size. Goodness gracious. The second award is going towards the Compact Hyperspectral Aberration Correction Platform, or CHAP. Thankfully, they came up with a good acronym for that one.
Oh, you didn't like Spear? You didn't like Spear Phase 2?
Oh,
Spear Phase 2.
Obviously, also for use on CubeSats. The hyperspectral multispectral imager is something that's going to function in a reduced light environment while minimizing the mass and power consumption that you need on a CubeSat. Because when it's CubeSat,
Cute, tiny.
yes, you need something small, but does a lot of
It needs
things.
to be bigger on the inside.
Bigger on the inside.
Yep.
That's exactly how I look at CubeSats. All right.
All right. Yeah, keep going. Are you
No,
done?
that's what I got.
Oh,
That's
you're done.
everything.
You're done. All right. So there's this awkward silence is what we're going for.
Yep.
All right. Then I think that's it for Space News.
Yeah,
All right.
pretty
We're
much.
going to take a quick break. And when we come back, comments from last week's show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled on some expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving, 'cause her heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's
And for the record, just like true California, the rain is done. That's all we get. That's all we get. That's all we get. All right, before we get into comments from last week's show, I'd like to give a shout out to the patrons of tomorrow who've helped to make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are the people who contributed at least $2.50 to this specific episode. You can find more information at the bottom of the screen there. But oh wait, there is more. For as little as 1 penny, you can get your name in the show. That's right. We also have our patron subscribers. These are the people who've contributed 1 penny up to $2.49. And every single penny helps improve the show bit by bit, week after week, or something. You can get more information on that over at patreon.com/TMRO. If you prefer the Space Pods, we actually have the Space Pod Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/SpacePod. The reward levels cost a lot less per episode, but there's a lot more episodes. So we tell you what your expected monthly rate is going to be. And if you want to set an upper limit, you can absolutely do that both for the TMRO campaign and for the Space Pod campaign. All right, let's go ahead and get started with some of those amazing comments.
Yay! This one comes from the Tabasco, of course.
A regular commenter.
Yes. It says, reusable Falcon 9 promotes an affordable and sustainable presence in space. Apollo shut down and limited world to LEO, or low Earth orbit, for 50 years.
Yeah, so this comes in, this was actually, I think...
This was from Twitter.
Twitter in response to a comment from last week.
Yes.
Saying how the Falcon 9 is probably one of the most important things. I said, I don't know, Apollo.
Right.
And I disagree that Apollo was the problem. I actually think it was Space Shuttle that was the problem. Space Shuttle got us stuck in low Earth orbit. We canceled Apollo because we thought it was too expensive and then replaced it with the more expensive Space Shuttle. That was all politics.
Yeah.
So if we had continued to fly Apollo, we could have still built Space Station. We did actually build Skylab. So we could and did build Space Station. We could actually still go to the moon. We could have there's so many more things we could have done if we kept Apollo around. So I don't blame Apollo for that. I blame Shuttle. Shuttle was a beautiful, elegant, amazing vehicle like nothing else that got us stuck in low Earth orbit for 40 years. That's the vehicle that I blame. I loved it. I loved watching it launch, but that's what happened. All right, moving along.
Also from Twitter, this one comes from our director.
No good can come of this.
Okay.
Who let this in the show?
Not it. Turns out my finger has all the sore in it from moving tomorrow yesterday. Never mind scratches, bruises, and being completely drained.
So the reason I put this in the show is we wanted to give a shout out to Dutta. As you have noticed, we are not on our normal set. This is a little sketch with whatever this... Oh, it's way further away than I thought. Whatever that is, and then obviously we're just shooting a wall behind us. We will make this better, I promise. We haven't had time to move the foam over, but we did bring Dutta. We go ahead, go to the all new Dutta desk, all new everything.
No, that's Dutta's apartment.
That's we moved in with Dutta. No. We so the problem with tomorrow right now is it's all in our apartment. We don't have a studio space for tomorrow because we can't afford it yet. We will someday, which means that when we move, so does everything else. And I got fed up at our old place. I'm like, we are moving right now. It was a very instant decision.
Yep.
And so...
So we're walking around
everyone's
the
laughing.
space
I can
today
hear
going,
Dutta laughing in the background.
Okay, well, studio, we kind of need to do that, don't
I'm
we?
like, this will work fine. So he helped us move all of the gear. And we did the live show last week. We wrapped up. We're like, awesome. Shut it down and then ripped the entire control room, entire studio out. There is go back to your shot, Dutta. There is you can't see, the camera is sitting on top of the rack of gear.
Yeah, all
there
of
is
the things.
a ton of gear. Yeah, right. There's just. Do you have? This is not going to end well.
This is going to be awesome.
That cable's not as long as you. This is bad TV, Dutta.
No, this is great. I like this.
Going on.
There it is.
All right, well, that will kind of work. There's that entire rack worth of gear, which was very heavy. The control surfaces, all of the lights, everything that goes in this room. And we were busted up something fierce, and it was a long,
Dutta literally
horrible
shed
day.
blood.
He literally shed blood. And anyhow, I wanted to give a shout out to Dutta and a thank you to Dutta for doing that because he didn't have to. He could have been like, do it yourselves, but he didn't. He a very good team player. So
Yes,
there you go.
quite.
Moving right along.
This comment comes from Reddit. This comes from Luxor.
Election.
Yeah. How in space is tomorrow not 4K yet? It's not the money. It is your inability to utilize technology. Is it YouTube stopping you? Please fix this. I can't wait.
So it is, in fact, the money. 4K is very expensive to produce. I actually gave you, I gave you the citizens tomorrow a long, detailed explanation on Twitter. But at the end of the day, the reason we're not 4K is the same reason we're not 1080p is there's a ton of equipment you have to buy. The cameras are not cheap. The switchers are not cheap. The encoding system's not cheap. And we've been slowly building this over 7 seasons to get what we have today. And we will get to 4K someday, I think, but we're going to have to slowly build to get to 4K. Also, I don't think 4K makes sense right now. How many people can actually view 4K on a screen? Right?
Yeah, we've had this discussion a number of times. The ability for you to ingest 4K versus the ability for us to output 4K are two completely different things. So most people we found like to watch us on the computer. That doesn't mean that you can watch us in 4K on the computer.
Right.
Pretty much until we're in cinemas or everyone has a 4K screen that they're going to be watching us on, it just doesn't make sense for us to make that technological leap when you can't even take it in that way.
Well, kind of. I will say, though, that 4K is coming.
Yes.
And so for us to have our back catalog in 4K is a good idea. So as soon as we can get to 4K, we will. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the deal with 4K. It's purely money, right? Cameras are $3,000 a pop. You need multiple cameras, and then the switcher is another $5,000. And then that's not even the hosting, right? It's about $1,000 in Amazon S3 hosting right now. 4K is about 4x the resolution. It doesn't actually scale to 4x the size, so
right.
Double it to about $2,000. For those who don't know, that's almost the entire Patreon campaign. By the time you take off caps and fees and everything else, that's about how much we get per month from Patreon. So that means that just hosting the 4K files immediately takes the entire Patreon campaign away. So then we can't afford things like a studio space or
a real
studio space, or all of the other stuff that we pay for.
I mean, I guess theoretically we
tomorrow.
could just call our closet the studio, and so we could just have like the worst possible thing possible, but in the best possible technology possible.
Sure.
Right? So the camera could just be right up our noses. That would be fine, but it's in 4K, and then
So
it makes
there you
everyone
go.
happy.
Yeah, we may give the SpacePod correspondents 4K cameras sooner rather than later. I was waiting for NAB to see what happened there, but I don't know. If you guys really think there's a pressing need for 4K, let me know. But I think that a really great 1080p camera and really well shot 1080p will destroy a really crummy 4K camera any day of the week. So, all right, moving along.
This one also comes from Reddit. This one comes from Mini Elon saying, "What's your favorite episode of tomorrow for Ben to submit to the Geeky Awards?"
That is something that comes from a tweet that I sent out, and I'm considering submitting tomorrow to the Geeky Awards, but they want 2 submissions. First, it costs like $40, so I'm like, maybe. But second, they want 2 submissions of episodes that, are good. Since none of our episodes are actually good, what I would like to know, is what you guys think should we even do it, right? I mean, or is it just silly? I figured maybe more people would find the show,
sure.
Right? But then B, which episode should we submit? The one with Spaceman Sam I thought was kind of fun, especially with the intro. That was a fun one.
A lot of people seem to like the Scott Manley episode.
Scott Manley was a good one too, yeah.
That was a good one. I think anything with Dave Maston personally.
Yep.
But, maybe that's just me.
The rain put me to sleep. Sorry.
Apparently. Goodness.
All right, next. So what do you think? Leave it in the comments. Leave it on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you think. All right, next up.
This one comes from YouTube. Speaking of, this one comes from Jack Harkness saying, "I love your show, and as a person whose passion for space was reignited just this year, appreciate your no acronym rule. You always forget JPL, by the way."
The Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So the no acronym rule does have exceptions to it, and that is something like we can say NASA. We're not going to say National Aeronautic and Space Administration every single time because people actually know NASA, but they don't know the National Aeronautic and Space Administration,
That's
right?
a cool place. Where's that?
Yeah, so that sounds interesting.
That sounds neat.
Yeah, it sounds neat. So we say NASA. I don't know if people know Jet Propulsion Laboratory or if they know JPL. So that might be one of those weird ones where it's kind of an exception
It
because
also depends if you're an audiophile and you're getting it confused with JBL.
I guess.
I'm just saying.
Sure. So that's where that one comes from.
What did I say? Did I say it's James Harkness? What did I say? Jack Harkness? Knowing me, probably. Sorry. I apologize.
This show's been brought to you by Doctor Who, just so you know. So yeah, that's where that comes from. This comment actually went on in Reddit, YouTube? This went on in YouTube to say, and by the way, I've been trying to piece together why you guys won't talk about SpaceX at all. Why won't you explain it? Well, it's not that we won't explain it. The reason we don't talk about SpaceX is we are both full-time employed at SpaceX, and this show is in no way, shape, or form anything by SpaceX. It's not representative of SpaceX. It's not sponsored by SpaceX. SpaceX doesn't know they know we're doing it, but they don't necessarily have any say in it. They don't endorse it, exactly. So the views and opinions on this show have nothing to do with SpaceX. And rather than having to say that whole freaking thing every single time, we just don't do SpaceX, right? We have Space Mike. He does all our SpaceX stuff for us. That relieves that whole like, well, are they speaking on behalf of SpaceX? Aren't they? No, we are never, ever speaking on behalf of SpaceX. And to eliminate that potential issue, we just don't talk about it. We just don't bring it up. We don't do this in the show, and we use Space Mike for all of our SpaceX news. So that's where that comes from. We don't try to make it a secret. It's not like anything, but we want to make sure there's a very clear line drawn in the sand, as it were. All right, next up.
Last comment comes from YouTube as well.
Second to last comment.
Oh, it is the second to last comment. I saw it there. 2 pages.
We have a new thing we're doing.
Yes, this is Pantata 567 says, hello, I am a 15-year-old Finnish boy with glasses and celiac disease. I am really interested in science and space, so I was wondering if there was any way ever for me to become an astronaut, and if so, I will do nothing but study and work out for the next 10 years if necessary.
Yeah, so, yes. How do you define, this gets weird, how do you define astronaut, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because anyone can become an astronaut simply by taking a suborbital trip to space. Mm-hmm. If you define being an astronaut as crossing the boundary of space, the 100-kilometer mark, Virgin Galactic and X-Corps will be able to make you an astronaut soon, 6 months out. But really soon for each one of them, right? So that will happen in your lifetime.
For sure.
From a studying standpoint, I don't want to say no. What you're going to need to do is get a lot of money, right? Because the tickets
to take that route.
To take that route,
yes.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to do that. Let's say you want to go to the International Space Station. You can take the Space Adventures route for
also a lot of money.
A lot more money. $50 million, I think, is that one?
A lot more.
A lot more money. So the answer is yes. You know, regardless, the answer is absolutely yes. But it's how you define astronaut.
Yeah, I don't know about the celiac disease necessarily. I'm not sure about astronauts with allergies per se. I do know that Richard Garriott did go the personal astronaut route, the Space Adventures route, and he did need glasses, and that was part of his experiment, was sort of to find out what the effects were, because previous to that you did have to have perfect vision, so on and so forth. But it's my understanding that he had basically been cleared afterwards. It was sort of like all the experiments that he did and all the research that he did on the International Space Station pretty much said, yeah, no, I mean, this shouldn't really be an issue. So I can't imagine that that's still going to be an issue. Again, with the food thing, that part I don't know. I can't really answer that, as I'm not part of NASA or ESA or any other organization that might have those sort of restrictions. So it might be something to look into. But like Ben said, you know, there are definitely other ways to get those sort of fictional astronaut wings.
There you go. So the answer is yes. The answer is always yes. All right. And finally, continuing our tradition of adding something into the show that has nothing to do with our actual show, we found this tomorrow hashtag on Twitter.
This comes from Isaac Martinez, or Isaac the Kid. Everyone is talking about tomorrow, and I STFU, I can't go.
I'm so sorry, Isaac, that you can't go to tomorrow. That is so awful.
That must really
and
suck.
last week, what was it last week? There's lobster tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, lobster season started last week.
I'm enjoying that. Also, speaking of weeks, next week, we're going to have Space Vidcast's own... Whoa.
Wow. I mean, I guess it is Space Vidcast's own.
Whoa.
But tomorrow's own.
Boom.
Vax Headroom.
Synapse is fired wrong. Vax Headroom. He is our internal crazy rocket scientist, crazy in a good way.
He's our Moonabomber.
He's our Moonabomber.
And we love him. And he's going to be talking about Sea Dragon, which is one of his favorite topics and one of Ben's least favorite topics.
What are you talking about?
I mean favorite topics.
I love Sea Dragon. This is going to be a very long and epic episode, just so you all know. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Get comfy.
And we're hoping that we can bring Space Mike back in next week. Had some bandwidth issues this week. I know, the internet's very surprised by that. Very, very surprised. They're like, what? Bandwidth issues with Space Mike? No, that can't be a thing. So there you go. All right. That was our show for this week. For all of you watching live, stay with us. After Dark is up next. Otherwise, if you're at our Patreon Plus level or above, you can watch the After Dark early by going over to Patreon and looking at all of our different subscription-y things. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week.